The COVID-19 pandemic has taken away a lot of life from this world. Our lifestyle has been changed since the outbreak of the COVID-19. To prevent the transmission of the COVID-19, government worldwide, including Malaysia, have implemented various types of lockdowns. Many industries have been affected badly due to the lockdown. Due to border closures, the travel, tourism, and hospitality industry have been wiped out by the lockdown because of the COVID-19 pandemic. In Malaysia, one industry that has brought great concern to the Malaysian, the education industry. During lockdown, educators and students could not go to school. Therefore, the home-based teaching and learning, as known as PDPR, was introduced by the Ministry of Education during the lockdown so that students' learning progress will not be affected badly. Everyone does have his or her point of view on this topic, so do I. In my opinion, I suggest that face-to-face classes should be allowed during the COVID-19 pandemic in Malaysia. A very good day to Madam Shahrul and anyone who is watching this video presentation. I'm Phine and welcome to my video presentation. I would like to persuade you all why the face-to-face class should be allowed during the pandemic in Malaysia. First of all, face-to-face class will provide more exposure than the online learning method. Students will learn something hands-on in the face-to-face class. For example, during a biology face-to-face class, students will work on experiments such as the mouse dissection experiment. In contrast, with the online learning biology class, students will only learn about the mouse dissection theory. We can clearly see that in the online class, students do not have the platform to showcase their skills, while in the face-to-face class, students can demonstrate their capabilities. Currently, I am giving this speech via the video recording method, which is a part of the online learning method. In the face-to-face class, I will be giving this speech in front of my teacher and friends. I will be able to show my hard work to everyone in the class. It can be said that the online learning method did not give me enough exposure compared to the face-to-face class. Besides, a combination of lockdown and the online learning method will force the student to stay at home. Normally, students will attend the online class at home. As time goes by, students will only be limited to move around in their home as they could not go to school or anywhere due to the lockdown. Therefore, students are not allowed to take a breath of fresh air outside their house. They are not exposed to the environment out there. It will cause health problems and mental problems such as depression to the students, especially extroverts, as their movement is restricted and they could not meet anyone in person aside from their family members. By having face-to-face classes during the COVID-19 pandemic, students are allowed to meet their friends in school. They will get to know their friends' condition. If anyone is facing difficulties, they can lend a helping hand immediately. Secondly, face-to-face class will eliminate the problem of not having electronic devices such as laptop and Wi-Fi. Students will be enjoying facilities provided by the government and schools during the face-to-face class. During the face-to-face classes, students will have basic facilities such as a table, a chair, and learning materials in their studies. Besides, other facilities such as a canteen, laboratory, school fields, and so on will also be prepared by the government and schools to fulfill their learning experience. Therefore, we can see that there is less reliance on electronic devices in face-to-face classes. Besides, there are still a lot of families that could not afford any electronic devices. Due to the online learning method, every student needs to have Wi-Fi complete with a tablet, smartphone, or laptop for class purposes. For an underprivileged family, it will be a burden to afford Wi-Fi and gadgets. Due to the lack of devices, the learning experience of the students will undoubtedly be affected. To solve this problem, the Member of Parliament of Bukit Mendajam, YB Steven Chikyong, organized a campaign called Asal Cek Mau Pi Sekolah to help the underprivileged students by giving free tablets and laptops to help them so that the students can join the online classes. Although there is such a campaign organized, we all know that there are still many poor students around Malaysia who cannot benefit from such a campaign. Moreover, there is low Wi-Fi coverage in rural areas. According to Dato' Zahidi Zainal Abidin, the Deputy Communications and Multimedia Minister, he stated that theft and vandalism are the reason why the rural areas suffer from the weak internet connection. Due to the weak internet connection, the students who live in rural areas will be having difficulties accessing the online classes. There was a news that went viral across Malaysia last year. Vivenoa Mosibin, who was a foundation student at University Malaysia Sabah, did climb and stay on a tree to get a good Wi-Fi signal so that she could finish her online exams. If there is no online learning method during the COVID-19 pandemic, Vivenoa Mosibin does not need to go through all the obstacles just to sit for an exam. Finally, students will be having more focus during the face-to-face class compared to the online learning method. With the online learning method, students will be having a lot of temptations such as bed, food, online game, and so on. If students could not beat the temptation, the students could not catch up with the learning progress. Thus, students might just give up on a particular chapter or subject because they learn nothing in the online classes. Besides, the distraction from family members during online classes did interfere students' focus. Sometimes, parents will ask their children to do house chores during class hour. Sometimes, parents will bring their children with them to buy groceries. Sometimes, parents will argue with each other. Based on the events that I have stated just now, it will distract the attention of students during the online classes. By having face-to-face class, the student will not need to go through the temptation and distraction that may occur during the online classes. Therefore, students will be having better focus in the face-to-face class. From my standpoint, face-to-face classes should be allowed during the COVID-19 pandemic in Malaysia. In the year 2020, schools in Australia, Singapore, Sweden, Cuba, and Tajikistan are still being open despite the COVID-19 pandemic. I know that someone will disagree with my opinion. They will think that education center is an unsafe place for the student during the COVID-19 pandemic as it will cause mass gathering. We know that home-based teaching and learning is not a long-term method. One day, the school will reopen in the future whatsoever. In Hong Kong, the government did lower the vaccination age limit from 16 years old to 12 years old. If the National Pharmaceutical Regulatory Agency lowers the vaccination age limit, and the response is great after the vaccination of students, the debate between face-to-face class and online learning method will be ended. I sincerely hope that educators and students can return to schools and universities in near future despite the current situation in Malaysia. This is because the face-to-face class can solve the dilemma in the online learning method. All the smiles, laughter, and memories will be emerging again if we are allowed to return to schools and universities. Thanks and have a nice day. Stay home, stay safe.